flying high, you know what I feel. Sun in the sky, you know what I feel.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with award-winning jazz singer Nicole Henry. She opened up about her life in music, COVID, and her new 2021 CD, Time to Love Again. On this new CD, she performs an eclectic mix of jazz standards and reimagined pop tunes with a very powerful voice that has made her a worldwide favorite with audiences and critics. Today, she is one of the jazz world's most acclaimed performers, possessing a very good combination of dynamic vocals, phrasing, and powerful resonance. She has a great story. Enjoy it.
It's great to connect. Thanks for taking a minute out to the show. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You bet. So let's talk about Time to Love Again. And, it's coming out kind of on the tail end of this pandemic. There's chances for live performance. How does it feel for this release to come out right now for you?
Oh, my goodness. It's been such a journey to get this music out. The story behind the CD is that actually there were 3 singles that I was planning to release through 2020, and they were all really feeling good kind of singles. Like, in fact, the first single from this CD was called Feeling Good, which came out as a single in April of this year. But then the other 2 songs were Your Smiling Face and Overjoyed. And so those songs were supposed to come out in 2020, but then we all know what happened in 2020, and it was not time to release a song called Feeling Good, nor a song called Whenever I See Your Smiling Face, because we were all supposed to be masked up. And Overjoyed was not the mood of the country. So I'm just delighted that we all, for better or for worse, made it through this pandemic, the social, political upheaval that we're all still kind of experiencing. And I'm able to put this music out. But, once 2020 we were in the midst of it, it was like, what do we do? I certainly wasn't going to release those singles. But in releasing the first single, Feeling Good, I thought to myself, I may as well just put a whole album together because it's been so long. I have some great arrangements to put together. So literally in June of this year, I went to the studio with my band and put the rest of the album together. And then here we are with Time to Love Again. And the title is exactly meant to consider that idea, because I think that's what we all need as a civilization, but particularly as a country, to really kind of get through the rest of what is on our plate, I think.
During this time that we've gone through of self-reflection, what did you about yourself that maybe you didn't realize before that's going to make you stronger now that you have a new album and you're, getting into live shows now?
That's a great question. And I did want to go, a couple weeks into the pandemic, I was listening to some podcast or something on the radio, and somebody suggested, you want to make sure that you come out of the pandemic stronger or better. I think it was an acting class or something, than when you went into it, because it is a time for self-reflection. Well, one thing I reinforced was that I'm a workaholic, because I still didn't catch up on Netflix and all the series I wanted to and see all the movies that I'm behind on. I learned a lot about myself as far as really my interest in, political activism and how much I really deeply care for humanity and how much faith I have in humanity. I just feel more charged for whatever my mission in life is, which I think being a musician, I think all of us musicians think that we can cure the world or help the world, in some way with our art. So, it just really reinforced what my goal and my mission is in life,
Right on. So talk to me about how this journey began for you, kind of where you were born and raised, family life, and how singing became your life.
I always sang in school and church choirs, and I never really knew how to become an artist. I thought you just got discovered and that was it, I didn't go to an art school per se, but I did. My mom encouraged my sister and I to play an instrument, so I played cello for 6 years. And I was always singing, but again, didn't know that there was a pathway to becoming an artist. So I went to college at the University of Miami, which is where I'm at right now. Studied architecture for a couple of years and then studied advertising and theater with the idea that I can impact my world with advertising, as far as copy and text and so forth, because I love commercials and copy. But then people kept asking me to sing, and I had this opportunity actually singing dance music in 1990, like in college, 97. I went and led this guy's show. It was like 4 songs, And having the opportunity to actually do a show and not just one song really put on another hat for me. You become an entertainer once you have to, do more than one song, not just a singer. And I fell in love with it immediately and was like, I want to do this. I want to get better at this, and I want to learn this is what I wanted to figure out how to, create a career with. And then come 2000, I was able to, leave a job that I had coming right out of college and just start singing full time. And fortunately, where I was at the time in Miami Beach, there were tons of opportunities to perform. So I was performing sometimes 6-7 nights a week. And then when I fell in love with jazz in 2002, my whole world was like, oh, where have I been? Where was jazz in my life growing up? So yeah, I really, fell in love with the live instrumentation and always, did that versus like track gigs. I think, nothing to knock it, but I just don't get feeling from doing those kinds of things. And then when it was jazz, I was like, oh wow, this is my world now. So that was my pathway. And I've been doing it, 20 years now officially. I started really performing in 2001 because I was doing a lot of acting in late 2000, 2001 as well. But I'm like celebrating 20 full years of being a full-time singer.
So what was the first live show you saw that really inspired you?
Ooh, well, I can remember sitting backstage at a concert that my aunt sang at. And it's kind of funny that I never really spoke to my aunt about how do you get into the music industry. My aunt is a vocalist. She had a solo career in the 70s and the 80s. And since then, she's been a background vocalist. So she's at that concert that she was performing at, she was singing backup for Jerry Butler. Today she sings background for Patti LaBelle. But I remember sitting backstage and watching her singing with Jerry Butler, and then this beautiful woman sits down next to me, and it's Dionne Warwick, and I don't think I was able to even move when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. But that's my first fond memory of just seeing performances, was watching my aunt perform. It's so funny how, you're raised in an academic family, and it's like you're going to go to college and you're going to be something, and I think I was thinking to myself, okay, I've got to be something intellectual, so I went and studied architecture because I love math and art. But it's just interesting how you get older and you learn yourself, and you learn who you are and what you want to be to the world.
Who were some other influences on you that really kind of modeled the way that you wanted to approach the stage?
Well, I would start by saying that I grew up listening to Aretha Franklin and then a lot of soul music. So that expression, that way of singing from black music, soul music, there's a sound, there's a feeling that I connected to early on, whether it be the Spinners or the Commodores, or the Four Tops that my parents would play for me. These are, my parents playing this music for me. Sylvester, this great drag queen from the 80s, Aretha Franklin, like I said, her gospel album particularly. So, hearing gospel music as a child, when you hear people sing about faith, there's something so connected that you want to believe everything that you're singing and saying, and so I think that was very influential to me. I also grew up listening to a lot of classical music. My mom played piano in the house, and then we, usually Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings, I'd wake up and hear classical music for hours. So I really love the fabric of a classical music piece, that just the ebb and the flow and the crescendos and the decrescendos. So I really, and playing cello, so I love that part of my musical influence as well. But then when it comes to jazz, when I first started singing jazz, my bass player, who invited me to join his trio and said, oh, why don't you learn some jazz tunes and sing with us for a night? He burned a couple CDs for me, which I know now it wasn't the right thing to do, but I went on to buy many jazz CDs. He put together a collection of vocalists, female vocalists, that he thought that I would like, having heard me sing more guitar pop stuff, which is what I was doing before I sang jazz. And he put together songs that were artists, and ones that I connected to so much were Nancy Wilson, Sarah Vaughan, and Carmen McRae. I think those were my go-to artists for song choices and for delivery, for feeling. Yeah, I really, those would be my three. And then, of course, there's always Ella. Wonderful.
So what do you like the best about being a singer and a performer?
Actually having an opportunity to connect to so many people in one shot and being a part of people's lives forever. Once you experience a concert, you were there in that space with that hundreds of people, even as an audience member. And that's a memory that sometimes you don't always remember these things, but to be a part of somebody's life and so many thousands and thousands of people's lives, or sometimes, whether it's singing at sometimes a wedding, I sing a song at somebody's wedding, or, even at a funeral, which I am so inspired by funerals because sometimes I don't know the people, but you're inspired by the kind of love that people can feel for others, and you're reminded about what kind of legacy you want to leave behind and what you want somebody to say at your funeral. So, I'm always inspired by at church. I love singing at church. I'm a guest soloist sometimes at church, and it's just as inspiring for me to be able to be a part of a service, to let my vocal be some connection to faith. So those are the things that I really love about performing. Aside from just loving music and getting lost in music, that's like a dream for me. It's great that I get paid for it. But, just being able to be a part of other people's lives and touch people in ways that I don't even know. Sometimes I'll get emails from people and they tell me I've had a couple of people tell me that my music helped save their life. And that's like, what? They talked about going through depression or, bulimia or these various things and like the joy, or, this one woman broke her Achilles tendon and was healing for 6 months or something like that. I forget exactly what piece article, but, she said, your music just uplifted me throughout that time. And it's just like, you never know where your music is going to wind up. And it's really a blessing. Really a blessing.
Everyone has a perception or an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. Who do you think you are?
Oh my goodness, that's a question. You're giving me these questions that are just amazing. Who do I think I am? Who I know I'm insane. I'm like absolutely a madwoman. But I'm a grateful person. I'm so amazed at what doesn't go wrong in a day. You know what I mean? How my body doesn't reject it. I'm always amazed at the miraculousness of life. The body, the eyes, the digestion, just how perfectly planned our bodies are. So I'm always in awe of the universe, nature, how things just grow and continue to breathe and grow, so that's one. But who is Nicole? Like, who am I? I think I'm like everyone else. I'm just trying to maintain some semblance of correctness, of like living like, to being responsible. My job is very singular. I don't have an office where I work with 20 or 30 or 10 people unless I'm going to work with my band, of 4 or 5 people. So I'm by myself a lot. I love working hard. I love working out. And I love being silly. I love laughing. But I also really love intellectual conversation, political, really into social discussions and poverty and, taking care of humans and one another. So, yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Nicole, thank you for taking some time out and opening up with the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. Such great questions. I appreciate that. And thank you again for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Nicole for her time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.